Welcome to the Ecomminsiders podcast. My name is Debbie Slaver, and event is being sponsored by SPCTEK. Today's topic, Amazon PPC success, strategic thinking for sustainable growth. And today I have Noemi Bolajian with me. She is the co-founder of ScaleWave.io, an Amazon verified partner. They specialize in helping 6 and 7-figure brands double their sales through powerful data-driven PPC ad strategies. Welcome today, Noemi.
Thank you so much, Debbie, for having me on the show. This is an absolute pleasure.
Yes, we're very excited to dig in today. I know there's a lot going on in the field right now between Amazon and AI, and I'm so interested in really finding out some of your thoughts. I really want to kind of break this up into some different categories. I want to talk about strategy first. These questions are really going to focus on like that big picture approach, including the long-term sustainability and then some of your overarching tactics. What is the most significant shift that you've seen in Amazon PPC strategy in the past few years?
Right. That's a great question. Best question to start with. What I've seen so far is that there was a huge shift 5 years ago versus what is it today. The competition is way higher. New features are rolling out on a now it feels like a monthly basis. Sophistication is there, and also the price of advertising is skyrocketing. So 5 years ago, if I made a mistake, if I created an auto campaign, I could just like go with it and I would still be successful and profitable. Right now, that is not anymore the case. So this is
Mhm.
why I love that you actually have me on the show and we're going to talk strategy because based on these four factors, actually, we are going to now look forward and which will be our next steps to implement based on the knowledge that we have right now.
What do you think are the key pillars of a successful Amazon PPC strategy?
Aiming for a goal, having that goal, and then creating a strategy for the goal. It's as simple as that. Most of the time people are just overarching on this is what you should be doing and this is the latest trick and this is the latest trend. However, what I'm seeing so far is that I started there 5 years ago. I learned all the tactics, all the strategies, but what I lacked is understanding the
Mm.
mindset. What do I want to do? Because you can be like, you can listen to this podcast, for example, today, you can go into your account, you can implement whatever, but then that does not makes you into an expert. And I really love that this is actually how we started the quick convo, like happy to have an expert on the show. And I was telling you, yes, I might be an expert, but my mind is like, I have the beginner's mind, because without that, you would consider that you know everything. So really, basically, it boils down to having a goal, knowing what you want basically, and then how would you implement, which are the next steps that you would implement to achieve that goal. Did that make
So,
sense?
yes, it makes perfect sense. In this strategy, how would sellers really measure the success of their PPC beyond just sales? What type of strategic things are you looking for?
Right, so I'm really looking into like, what do I want to achieve? Do I want to scale an account? So do I want to increase revenue or do I want to increase profitability or the margins on the product? And based on those two, actually, I'm going to create my strategies. There are 5 strategies. I call these like evergreen Amazon PPC strategies, and they stick. 2 years ago, I was the first one bringing it up to our community. But basically, this is just like giving you a clear mindset of whatever I want to achieve with the account, how would I achieve it? So basically,
Mm.
I like to call it evergreen strategy because this is applicable. 5 years ago, it was applicable. It's applicable still now in 2024, September 20th, when we are recording this episode. And the 5 strategies basically are the protect. How will you ensure that you are going to be protected? Your brand is protected, your listing is protected. Second one is conquer. How would you ensure that you're going to take away sales or piggyback on listings that are poorly optimized? Third one is ranking. Everyone is talking about ranking, but ranking is really is strategically. How would you ensure that you're showing up for those keywords that are really important for those sales, as you were mentioning? Sales is one of the things that we would measure here, right?
Yeah.
Dominate is really one different approach, but this is the 4th pillar of the strategies. And here, basically, what we want is having a specific search term or keyword that we want to show up all the time for it, right?
Oh,
And the fifth one is going to be discover, which is basically it's going to be campaigns that we would start and they are not exact match. They are up to Amazon to show us wherever we would show us with less, with some control and with uh, more control, like with those two aspects, you know. But basically, everything boils down to these five strategies, and when are you going to apply them within the account?
yeah. Now, how do you use the data to inform you? Once you've created this strategy, you've decided which one of them you want to go with. How do you use that data to actually inform your PPC strategy and then make data-driven decisions?
Right. So again, it boils down to the strategy. Let's say that we would have a protect strategy. The purpose of the protect strategy is to ensure that you're going to show up on your own listing. And also, if you have branded keywords, you're going to show up for those keywords. So my KPI here is going to be, do I show up for those keywords whenever someone is looking for my brand name, for my product, or on my listing, if I have like different variations or I can cross-sell products, do I show up? So my KPI there is like, did I achieve the goal of protecting my own listing and or my own catalog? When it comes to Conquer campaigns, it's going to be, the KPI there is going to be, do I actually show up for products that are like cheap sales, that are listings that are not well managed? Maybe they are new listings, maybe they have less reviews, maybe they have poorer quality of images, maybe they have higher pricing than mine. So kind of like piggybacking of whatever the competitor is missing. And that is going to be the KPI. Do I show up and do I make cheap sales? Right? For ranking campaigns, again, the KPI is going to be, do I actually rank for this keyword? AKA, if I'm creating exact match campaigns, do I actually show up for those keywords? And by tracking it on day by day, do I actually improve in organic ranking? You know, so that is going to be our KPI, right? For dominate campaigns, it's going to be, do I actually show up on top of search each time when I'm looking for specific keywords? Do I show up on specific product each time when I want to like dominate on one product targeting? So my KPI is going to be, did I achieve my goal, right? And for discover, it's going to be, this is kind of like trying to figure out which are the keywords that Amazon would show me for. This is especially for auto campaigns. And for the manual campaigns, which are like phrase and broad match campaigns, here again, it's going to be, do I like cast out a wide net enough to have some budget for keywords that I believe that I would be performing well for, but do I perform maybe at a specific A cost? Do I perform maybe at a specific sales level? So it really boils down back to strategy. You know, that is the data that we are achieving. What we're doing basically, we're creating the campaign based on the strategy, the data that we're gathering either after 1 day, 7 days, I don't know, 2 weeks or a month or a quarter, even depending on the strategy. Where are we? And then based on that, we are adjusting the next steps.
Mm. Well, I love to hear that there are strategies that are tried and true. And I'm just wondering, are you seeing any emerging trends right now in Amazon PPC advertising?
Oh, you just put me on the spot. Yes, I do see some emerging trends, but they are not necessarily the best trends possible, and they have been here for the past 2 or 3 years. And the trends that I'm seeing is that more new features Amazon is releasing, which is great that they're releasing it. Way more people are going to just like get FOMO and trying them out, and they're going to
Mhm.
miss the one and most important point is that focusing on the 20% that really matters and not on the 80% that is like, oh, it's so much information, you know. So actually like boiling it down, that is something that I'm noticing, and that is something that I'm also noticing on myself, you know, because as you were saying, I'm in the day-to-day, I'm in the trenches. I have to know about all those updates, and what I'm noticing is if I'm not going to be focused on, that's the strategy, we are still like, we're focusing on the goal. It is a flexible goal for focusing on it. And in the meantime, like the rest of the time that I can spend on informing myself, trying out new things, and so on, that is like less priority than actually achieving my goal, you know. So I believe that FOMO is really a really big thing, especially in advertising, because you cannot not stay up to date, you know, to whatever is
Oh, yes.
happening. In the same time, you cannot neglect maintenance of whatever is going on.
Yeah. So let's say that a client comes to you, we've picked the strategy that we want and stuff. I want to talk a little bit about how you create the campaign. We're going to talk about maybe the setup, creation, just some of the initial structures of an Amazon PPC campaign, if you don't mind. What are some of your favorite tools or techniques for keyword research on Amazon?
I'm going old school. Amazon search bar. That's the best one. And people are not using it. And you know why they are not using it? Because they are going to put their trust in tools when they should
Mm,
put their trust in God, quote unquote. Here, Amazon is actually the search engine that is going to give you all the information. And here, the most basic one is going to be if you're going to uh, write a keyword, you will see what is going to be filled out afterwards. Because then you will see, is there actually demand on whatever I'm looking for? Is this term a branded term, for example? So you would be looking into, is this term actually going to be the best keyword for my product? And giving you a super clear example. So we're dealing actually for one of the brands that we're managing. We are dealing with a very competitive niche. And because their niche is so competitive, we have to be so careful with the keywords that we're using, because they literally have up to like 100,000 search volume keywords for keywords that are like buyer intent keywords, which means that someone would type that and buy the product with, not is just like browse with it. So in that scenario, actually, we have to be super careful of which are the keywords that we are going for. And here the Amazon search bar key, like trick, it's going to be, once I'm going to type in that exact keyword, am I going to find a product? Because even if you're doing like a small alteration, for example, it's going to change the output.
yes.
So that is the very first thing. Then next, once that we find that exact keyword that we're looking for that is describing the product in Amazon search bar, next we are going to, okay, this is it. We are going to tools. So we would use either Helium 10. Lately, for the past, I think like for the past 2 quarters, we love Data Dive. We're using Data Dive on a like daily basis. But then we would select all the products and then see, okay, which of these products would be a good fit to whatever I want to sell, and which actually match whatever I want to sell, both on design and both on pricing. So that would be like kind of like narrowing down of how we would put together a keyword research, and how would that keyword research turn into campaign creation. And as I was saying, it has to do a lot with what is the strategy that you're going to use. Let's assume, because most people are super intrigued in launching a new product on Amazon,
Mm,
and in that case,
okay.
we would use, for example, a ranking strategy, right? So we do want to ensure that we're going to show up on those 2, 3, 4, 5 specific keywords that we want to show up for, that are highly relevant to us, right? And in that case, what we would be doing, we are creating exact match campaigns. I know that you were asking about the campaign, like how we would create the type of campaign and so on. But I think that something that is noteworthy to mention is that we would focus on sponsored products at least 90 to 100% of the time. Why? Is because what we noticed is when it comes to ranking, those campaigns are ranking best. Sponsored brands are not ranking
Mm,
as strong. Strong sponsored brands, we would like very much see a similarity between a sponsored brand and a Facebook ad or a Google ad, for example, when it comes to ranking
yeah.
power. And the sponsored display, this is something that we would use only if it's within the strategy, which with ranking it is not. But if, for example, they are relaunching the product, we would look up on the past 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever would be the buying cycle, to see, okay, can
Yeah.
we rank for those spots? So
Yeah.
based
To
on that, we would be
retarget some
creating.
people. Well, I
Exactly,
think that's
exactly.
really noteworthy to mention that, because I think that's the other thing people get confused about is like the different types of ads and what really brings results. And so I love hearing you give some statistics to back that up, because that is so important for people to understand that, that sponsored product ad still gets the biggest bang for the buck. And speaking of bucks, how do you determine the optimal bid for any particular keyword?
Your audience might hate me for this, but I'm going back to strategy again. So it really depends on strategy. If we're going to rank for those keywords, what we want to do, especially if it's a product launch, we want to kind of dominate for those keywords, because no one knows us. Amazon doesn't know us. So we want to make as many sales as possible for the highest relevancy keywords. And as you know as well, like around 60 to 70% of purchases are made from the top of search. So
Yeah.
we would like to show up there first off, So for those keywords, they are not the cheapest, And it
Yeah.
doesn't really matter of the category that you're in. Nowadays, it's really not the cheapest. Actually, yesterday I was testing some for top of search because we are doing a product launch. We paid $24 per click.
Wow. Yeah, I guess the
And
days of $5 clicks are over, right?
not necessarily. I do think that it has to do with the category still, because
Okay.
for example, we do have like we simultaneously launching two different products, and for one, it's just like super competitive because it is a product that everyone would buy, and the other one is a more niche product. Therefore, for those, even if you would have a $2 CPC, we would still be profitable and we would still show up on top of search, So I think that nuance is really important, because most of the time what is happening is that, okay, if we're creating ranking campaigns, we must know how much does it cost us to show up there. It can cost from $1 to, as I was saying, $24. And we have to know that, because that is going to, at the end, it's going to show us how much do we have to actually invest to rank for that keyword,
Mm,
So did that
yeah.
answer your question about like the bidding? Because I feel like
That's a really
most people
good
are
point.
like, yes, bid $1. It's like, yes, and how would I like $24, But the fun story is that actually we were very modest when it comes out to this product launch, and we were like, okay, let's try with $5, nothing, $8, nothing, $10, and like throughout a week we realized that, okay, this is a product launch, we have to invest money, because from this we did not get any data, and as you know, based on the data we're making the next decision, So
Yeah.
if you don't have the data, you cannot decide, Yeah,
What kind of approach do you take to the negative keyword targeting?
Great question. So when it comes to exact campaigns, most of the campaigns that we like to create are hands-on, as much control as you can. So they are exact match campaigns or phrase match campaigns. Broad match campaigns require even more negation and auto campaigns. Auto campaigns, we're not doing too many, but when it comes to auto campaigns, what we like to do is usually we would use also helium 10. There is which are the keywords that would be that people would look for, and even if it's the one route that describes your product, actually is, for example, cleaner. Let's see that you have, for example, this Salugard Botanics whatsoever. This is a cleaner, right? But it can be maybe a dog eyes cleaner, or maybe like cat eyes cleaner, or like something like that. So just the sheer fact that it has a root as cleaner as the keyword, it's not going to guarantee you that you would show up for it. So what we would do is like a pre we would pre-qualify the keyword, ensuring that we're not going to show up for anything that is not related to the product, So that would be
Oh,
a process
okay.
of negation. That's a process of negation before actually negating the data.
And you've mentioned a lot about keyword matching, that you do the exact match and stuff like that. What
Great,
what
great,
really is the role of a keyword match in the PPC strategy?
great question. So it has to do a lot with being intentional and having as much control as you want. And it's while it sounds like dramatic, but it's really the case. So when it comes to exact matches, we are very like, imagine this one as your upfront direct person who's like, that's what you want, that's what you get, So for example, if it's the exact match, you're looking for cleaner, and it's like, now it's not coming the words. Okay, I have something else. I have multiple products on my desk, by the way. So this is, for example, a tick and insect repellent. I love them because then I can use them with prompts, So this is,
Yes.
for example, a tick and insect repellent, for example. If this is my product, that is a keyword that I would use in order to show up for tick and insect repellents. That is for sure that if I'm looking for this product on Amazon, I'm looking for this product. I'm not looking for those ticks that are like you're putting in the
Mhm.
garden and like so on. So I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for this one specifically. If I'm looking for something that is up to up to 12 hours, I'm going to look up to that. I'm not looking at candles again, but I'm looking to this product, So that is kind of the exact match. I'm direct and upfront. This is what I want. This is what I get, The second one, it's phrase match. Now, this is a more loose approach, but it's still the word itself, but with words either before or either after. So for example, here, tick and insect repellent, and here, for example, longer tail keyword that if I'm going to have this in phrase match, I might have tick and insect repellent 12 hours or 8 hours or naturopath or whatever the name it would be, the brand, so that can be like more intentional, but it's like someone is looking for a product that is solving that I'm solve someone is looking for a product of which problem that I'm solving, that they might not be looking for my product. Giving you an even better example, women's sport shoes. Maybe someone is looking for women's sport shoes, but they are not looking for Nike women's sport shoes, so this is kind of like a more distinct way of still ranking for the keywords, but not in the I'm looking for Nike keyword, Nike sport shoes, and I'm going to find Nike sport shoes. I might find Skechers, I might find Adidas, I might find all the other brands,
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the third one is really like the broad match. This is the one that is like you're just starting it and you don't know what is going to be there, So this is the one that is going to get the most negatives, because this is like if Amazon considers that you should show up for the product and it's like tick and insect repellent, it can be like cat and dog insect repellent or so on. So it might not be for human even. It might be, so that's why that requires even more negation. So kind
Mm.
of like this is the hierarchy that we have. And what I love to do is when it comes to ranking campaigns, for example, and the way how we are ranking keywords, I like to have the exact match first, because that is the more this is who I am, this is what you wanted, and then the phrase that is going to have like less impact on ranking, just because it's like it can be or it can be not, and the broad match, which has even lesser impact on ranking, which is like you can really be it or it can really not be, so kind of
Yeah.
like understanding like the difference between those three. It's going to be very important, because that is going to help you with control. At the
So
end, you
that
want to
brings
control
me
as much.
to another question, that how do you target specific customer segments on Amazon?
We're looking for customers that really they customer segments. This is a good, it's a two-sided word, let's put it that way, because customer segments you might see also in sponsored display, which is like whoever purchased already your product or like so on and so forth. But the way how I would use customer segmentation when it comes to sponsored product, I would segment the keywords that I'm using. For example, if something is for adults, that is going to be the one segment. If something is for kids, it's another segment. If something is giftable, it's another segment. If something is consumable, it's another segment. And based on that, understand how it's going to react within keywords, Because as I was saying, like for example, categories like such as food, there's so many broad terms that even if it's super specific, it's still broad. Like for example, candied nuts. What can be a candy nut? Everything. Even popcorn can be a candy nut, So that
Yeah.
kind of like it brings me to okay, based on the category that you're selling in, how efficient are you going to be to really target the right audience that would buy your product, For some categories, you can be like freaking thing and insect repellent. This is like right in your face. Candy nut is like it can be anything, or protein bar, it can be anything, So
Yeah.
based on that, we would be targeting different segments.
So we've talked a lot about what we can do with targeting keywords and stuff like that. Let's talk a little bit about the product images. Okay. What's the
Right.
importance of high quality product images within PPC?
I believe that this is the trifecta that people are really missing. We were talking about images. I actually believe it has to do with four things, three things. Let's put it three things. So we were talking about images. I would consider listing copy plus images as one pillar. Second one is going to be inventory. If you don't have inventory, doesn't matter if you have good images. And then
Yeah.
third thing is if you have images and if you have a good listing crafted and you also have inventory, you can advertise. So based on those three, let's go down to like what is the purpose of good images. Images go hand in hand with depends on how competitive the category is, because right now honestly what I'm seeing as is that there are many people who are like claiming that the images has to be super professional so on, which they do have to be because competition they skilled up, they became more sophisticated. But I do still believe and I do still see that for categories like I was just looking up the other day, not even sure how they call them that, but in the electric panel they put this small, I don't know how they are called, but like
Fuses. Are they
there you
fuses?
go.
Yeah.
Yes. So no one cares, zero, about how the product images look like. There are three images, they look ugly as possible. They have $200,000 sales from that one listing, you know. So I do believe that when it comes to images and when it comes to creatives, why I am advocating on better it looks, it's you're increasing higher your chance. I do not want to negate the fact that it really depends on the category, because yes, people might be like looking into a nicer looking thing, you know, if the category is like whatever, you know, like no one really cares about images. But that should be a really good silver lining between the two, because while it's really important to have especially main image to pop up and really like make you differentiate from the competitor,
Yeah.
if you're in a category where it doesn't matter, you know, uh, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah. What is the role of then product targeting within your PPC strategy?
Yeah, product targeting, this is something really interesting. And not long ago, actually, Amazon released data that they are going to showcase. If you're targeting a product, actually, you target keywords, which is, I believe, it's something that I believe for the past 5 years. And it's like finally this Amazon showing the data for it, you know? So that's really important. But I also believe that this is one of those things that people are really not maximizing enough.
Mm,
Because what you can do, you can really product targeting can be way cheaper than keyword targeting, you know. And again, if the competition, like if it's a very competitive market, I'm sure where we are paying $24 per click, also when we would be doing product targeting, it would be even not, if not the same, but like even more expensive, you know, just
mm.
because of the niche being so like oversaturated, and like it's like a red ocean, you know. So yeah, keyword targeting is great. Product targeting, I believe, is something that most people are not talking about, just because Amazon did not show so much data for it as for keyword targeting, you know.
Okay.
But product targeting can definitely be one of those. We were talking about the 5 strategies. So when it comes to Conquer, actually, those would be product targets that we're targeting listings that are not as successful, or we can like we are way better than their listing. Pricing is way better, images is way better, A plus content. So actually, that is a really cool strategy that you can get. And I believe it should be also for cheaper sales rather
Mm.
than higher spend sales, you know.
Oh, good.
But that,
Okay. That's a good tip.
yeah, yeah.
How do you leverage audience targeting to reach the ideal customer?
You're putting me on spot. This again has to do a lot with sponsored display. Sponsored display has to do a lot with these kind of questions. As I was saying, while most people are not using sponsored display, they might not be like fully aware of how to use that, or they might not be using it. But actually, what I would do definitely is I would look in within the sponsored product campaigns. How could I implement that rather than? And I would give you the similar strategy of when we were talking about like groups of products, like where they would fit, I would go on that direction. Or maybe if I would like to create more brand awareness, or like cross sell between different
Mm, mhm.
type of products. For example, I have a popcorn maker and I also have popcorn, and I'm not selling them together, you know. So that could be like different audience targeting, but that has my that it's going to increase my LTV, my lifetime value of the customer itself. So they might not be
Yeah.
spending $12 or $3, but they might be spending actually $50 because they bought this from me, you know. So there's where I see, when it comes especially for sponsored products, a good way how to do that. Even with sponsored display ads, when we would do product targeting, we would strategize in the similar way.
Okay. Well, we've talked a little bit about, just how to craft a strategy, stick to it. And then we talked about just creating the campaign that will get us to that goal. Let's talk a little bit about actually optimizing the campaign. Okay, so now let's talk about what would we do to improve or manage or even optimize an active campaign that's already out there. Um, when do you think it's best to use manual bidding versus automatic bidding?
Um, Manual bidding versus automatic bidding, just we are talking about the same process. This is still relevant to sponsored product, correct?
Uh, yes.
Okay, because in that scenario, what I would do, I like to have rather like maybe let's put it this way, because if we're talking about sponsored product, we would talk about fixed bids, dynamic bids, and or rules, like automatic rules from Amazon. And then like we can like put them into the manual and auto that way.
Mm.
So for example, there are fixed bids, which is like whatever I want to pay for it, that is how much Amazon is going to take, no matter if the bid is lower or higher than whatever I would offer. The second one is dynamic. So dynamic can be up and down, which is based on if Amazon is going to consider your product that is like highly relevant to convert on this specific bid that is higher than your actual bid, or it's lower than your actual bid. That is how much you would pay. So the third one would be down only, which means that you have the threshold, and then everything that is that threshold or underneath, that is how much you would be paying, right? And for auto, it's like there's where you would put in rules for Amazon on how to bid. As I was saying, I am really like control focused, because I cannot, like, I'm thinking it from the perspective, as much as I can control, like more better data I have, whatever I cannot control, then also the data is going to be skewed. So in this scenario, what I love to do is either we would start with fixed bids, which is that the aggressive, like this is how much I'm going to offer, but also I would start with bids down only, because sometimes what I want to see, for example, for the product that is $24 bid for, you would have never knew that it's $24 with fixed bids, But in the same time, we now know that actually we have down only. We also have top of placement like modifiers. So we want to ensure that we're showing up there, because if top of placement modifiers would have not been there, the fix only like wouldn't have worked, So I do believe that for niches that are more smaller, more targeted, where the keywords are not so expensive, fix might work really well. And for fix also, I do believe that you have to have more knowledge when it comes to how much should you bid for one keyword, But what I really love is having the down only, because that gives me the option to show up wherever I want to show up, with the option of not paying the highest price while still showing up in the first place where I want to show up. So kind of I believe it boils down to control. How much control would you have?
Yeah.
So one is like
I've
giving up
had
control. The second one, yeah.
I've had a number of clients who've come to us that gave up the control and they were like, I turned my back for a second and it was just out of control. So I do think that that's really important when we're talking about advertising to talk about there are times that you want to make sure that you have that control, and you never want to get to a point where you have no control, where you're just letting it go. And I think
Yeah,
that's why people come to agencies and use people who are really more educated in the strategic part of advertising, because there's a lot to understand. Um, what do you think the role is within a PPC campaign to adjust your bids when you know
right.
you should, you shouldn't?
Love it. And this is again such a good question, because it's so nuanced, and so many people give you such a straight answer. I'm like, how can you? So it really is so much dependent on the strategy that you're creating. Because for example, if you're launching a product, let's go back to our example. We are in a product launch phase and we want to show up for that keyword. Even if it's costing us, $24 per bid, our strategy was to let's gather data to see how much would it cost us to actually make a sale. So we have to see
Mm.
conversion. So in this scenario, does it convert at 5%? Does it convert at 8%? Does it convert at 10%? Does it convert even lower? So we do have to give it room enough before we would optimize something. Because what is going to happen is that, one, if you're optimizing right away before having enough data, what you're going to get is like you kind of like closing losses, very similar to whenever like you would they're just trading, so you're putting your threshold is like actually you just cashed in losses versus like understanding actually how much you can actually make money, so that's why I'm saying that it's going to be super important when it comes to bidding, understand the strategy behind. When it comes to I want to optimize the account and I want to increase margins, clearly that's no brainer. Whatever works for the account should be working. Whatever doesn't work for account should be paused. Let me correct that. Whatever doesn't work for the account and is not part of the strategy should be paused. Whatever it worked previously for the account, but right now it's like I'm not sure if it's going to work for the account, it can be lowered bids. And whatever clearly it's not working for the account, either we would negate it or like we would create a strategy for it. But I believe that this is really, really important to understand, because what I'm seeing most of the time, I'm sure like you also, that we were like sometimes like, yay, this is our keyword, and we were finally showing up for it, and we're organically ranking, and then we forget about it, and like your competitor is just stepping the keyword, like,
Mhm.
like so upset and so mad because you paid so much to rank for that keyword,
Yes.
and just because you under optimized, over optimized, something happened on the optimization, and you missed out that opportunity to keep that keyword for yourself.
How do you optimize your keyword list for continuous performance improvement?
Right. So I'm going to be very, very strategic when it comes to specific keywords. Let's say that I have a product, and let's say I have 30 to 50 keywords that are all super relevant to my product, and that is my keyword list basically.
Mhm.
20-80 rule. Which are the top 3 keywords that are bringing most of my sales? I'm going to be like super cautious of those. The rest, it doesn't matter if it goes down, if it goes up. It's like
Okay.
it doesn't really matter, because those three, similar to if you have 3 campaigns that are performing best, never touch the freaking budget on those campaigns, because then what's going to happen is like you just killed your sales.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is my way of like how it. I'm curious also, like on your end, how would you guys go about it?
Well, we're similar in that we don't want to mess with those campaigns that are performing well. Yes, change is a part of business, but there's also some consistency. And if
Right.
we've got data that's showing us those are converting into revenue and sales, then there's no reason at this point that we would make those changes. We can always be tweaking what we're doing underneath those, like you said, but I think we need to be careful when you see you've got something that's performing well, not to
Right.
just go in because of the bestseller ranking. Actually, I think that people don't understand how much that is put into Amazon's algorithm for all types of things. And so
Right.
if you lose some BSR simply because we were just, playing with some ads, it can, like you said, really affect your revenues.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm happy to see that we're seeing eye to eye there. And the reason why I was asking is because I see that many people who are like they're switching agencies. It's super easy on the agency and to pause everything that worked for the and like why? Yes, I know that it's going to take like 5 to 10 hours on our account managers and to freaking figure out what works, what doesn't, which are the campaigns that should be renamed, and so on and so forth. But then actually you're putting yourself to failure, like in front of failure, just because you're starting something that's completely new and you don't even know how it's going to work. So keep it there, whatever works, and then whatever is not within strategy, as we were saying, just take it out, because then it
Mhm.
should not be allocated budget. Yeah, I love that.
Okay. So this is our big question for ending today. Everybody's getting ready for peak selling Q4. All right.
Hit me,
Give
hit me, hit me.
strategy. Yeah, give us a strategy for managing those PPC campaigns during this peak selling season that's coming up.
Great. And as you can see from the whole conversations that we had, I'm giving you answers that usually are not your typical do this, do that. Here is my SOP. I'm going to tell you about some things that most people are not thinking about. How important is the inventory that you have? How important is if your product is consumable? And how important is if you really want to make those sales or not, to keep
Mm.
those keywords to rank for? Because based on
Yeah.
that, we would create a strategy. And I do see this like hype of even Amazon is like pushing the CPC like 2-3 times higher. I'm like, yeah, we're going to sit it out. We don't have inventory. We don't have a product that is consumable. I'm totally fine with it, because I know that, tomorrow when everyone spends on the budget and they don't have budget, my ad is still going to show up. So uh, there are those products where like I don't really care because I know that it's going to work. For consumable, as I was saying, it really comes down to, did we achieve to gain more customers by showcasing our product? Because that's a repetitive purchase rather than it's like one time only purchase.
Mm,
So
mhm.
if that is the 2 categories that I'm seeing right now, products that are not really, you're not like not consumable, or you wouldn't purchase within the next month, 2 months, or so on, that are not necessarily consumable. um, for those products, I don't believe that you should be investing so much in advertising. And again, this is based on data, because we work with we see, but with consumables, we spent a lot, but we gained new clients. With products that were like meh, it's like we still rank for it because no one is going to buy it like 2 times, 3 times in a month or so on. So we were like,
Right.
why should we would be investing that budget or reallocating maybe in new things. And again, inventory is something that most people are not really like talking about. All right, so you created a strategy. Now your ads are super, like you're bidding aggressively, and then you're running out of stock, and we're in freaking Q4. It's like how much expensive shipping cost is going to be. So it's like a strategic planning rather than see whatever you have, like which are your cards, and play by those. Does it make
Yeah, I
sense?
actually find the philosophy refreshing to be, more holistic view of the entire business, all of the product, all of the things that go into running a successful store, including inventory and your shipment lag time and all of that type of stuff. Really, what I loved that I could take away from here, and I think the same way, is be strategic. Be strategic in your ads, be strategic in your spend, I mean, your campaigns and everything. And don't, you don't have to go with whatever the latest YouTube video is that says, try this because you're going to double your, whatever and stuff. Be
Mm,
strategic. Stick with what your goal is and go for it.
right, right. Because
Yeah.
like there's so many people who like they really crack under pressure and they are going to execute. And worst thing is that if they are your clients and like, why didn't you create this for us? Shouldn't we implement this? Like, like no, and like, oh, let me go inside. And like, don't. So like those kind of clients, like very much like, let me manage it. It's like you mismanage or something like that. And it's like, no, we already talked about this. We don't have inventory. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's really, it comes
Uh,
down to that.
Tell us a little bit more about ScaleWave IO and, where listeners can get in touch with you if they need to.
Sure thing. So ScaleWave is I co-founded ScaleWave with my amazing husband, and basically what we do is we're helping brands that are 6 to 7 figures, and we're helping them really be successful on Amazon. As you can see, we have a very much data approach, strategy approach. What are your next 5 moves? 10 type of approach whenever it comes to strategies, and yeah, the best way for saying hello, finding out more about us, or just like following up on the content that I'm posting, it would be LinkedIn. I am very active there. I love to post as much as possible. So on LinkedIn, you would find me on NOEMIBOLOJAN. So once again, that's NOEMIBOLOJAN. So my name spelled out. And you can find me. And I would highly encourage also your listeners to, even if they are interested in ads or so on, I believe I'm a true believer, and this is why also I accepted the podcast request, is education. More education you give to customer, better questions they are asking, and less questions they are asking. So also on LinkedIn, I'm trying to post even the most basic stuff, from most
Yeah.
basic to like super high end, because that's what people need. They don't need only the latest tips and tricks, because I know that 5 years ago I was the one who's like latest tips and tricks and so on. It's like, yes, after 5 years you realize what you don't know. So that's what, like, it would be a really good way to connect that way, and like just follow the content because I'm sharing as much as I can.
Well, I
End goal
do
is
want to
education.
thank you for joining us today. I want to thank everyone who watched today. Ecom Insiders, sponsored by SPCTEK, with our guest, Noemi Bolajan. And if you do have questions, you can also leave them in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's session, just please subscribe. ScaleWave IO, a partner of SPCTEK. We would like you to enjoy some of our future editions. Thank you.